What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Another episode of Sands and Friends podcast. I'm your host, Sands of Time. We're here today with the Week 9 College Rundown Report, okay? We're going to go through all the college games, the game of the week, the top 10, the best of the rest. We're going to shine a light on the small schools, and then we're going to give you 10 picks, the top 10 teams that's playing this week. With no further ado, let's get into it. Our game of the week features number 20, Illinois at 6-1, traveling out to Eugene to play Oregon Ducks, the number 1 team in the nation, at 7-0. We got two very solid quarterbacks in this one. Oregon's got a good quarterback in Dillon Gabriel, and Luke Altmyer is Illinois' quarterback. Illinois beat Michigan 21-7 last week, while Oregon rolled over Purdue 35-0. Oregon is number 1 in the polls for the first time since 2012. Last time Illinois beat the number 1 team was 2007 when they took down the Ohio State Buckeyes. Can they repeat history in this one and get that upset? They'll need Luke Altmyer, who's thrown for 1,506 yards and 15 touchdowns with only 1 interception on the season. They'll need Caden Fegan, 306 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing, and Pat Bryant, 484 receiving and 7 TDs if they're going to beat Oregon. Oregon, like I said, is led by Dillon Gabriel, Heisman finalist. He has 2,080 passing yards on the season with 15 touchdowns and 4 INTs. So not a lot of turnovers. What defense could create a turnover from that quarterback? You got Jordan James running that ball for Oregon, 717 yards with 8 TDs, and Tez Johnson, 536 yards and 7 TDs for Oregon, leading the receiving corps. These teams have met 3 times before. Oregon holds the 2-1 lead. Can the Illini defense slow down that talented Oregon offense? Can they score enough on offense to keep up with Oregon? Oregon comes in as a 22-point favorite. That's a large favorite for 2 ranked teams. We'll see if Oregon can get the job done in our game of the week versus Illinois. Moving into our top 10 and the best of the rest, we're going to go through the list of who the top 10 games are. Oregon, like we said, they're number 1. They're facing number 20, Illinois. Georgia, number 2. They have a bye week this week. Number 3, Penn State, 6-0. They're going to go to Wisconsin and play the Badgers, 5-2. You got number 4, Ohio State, 5-1. They're going to be playing at home against Nebraska, 5-2. Then you got number 5, Texas. They're on the road against number 25, Vandy. Texas is coming in off a loss to Georgia, 30-15 last week. They're going to travel to Vandy, who's already pulled off an upset against number 1 Alabama back when they were number 1 at home. Can they do it again? History does repeat itself. We're going to see if Vandy can do it again. Vandy needs to control the clock in order to win this game. So, Ced Alexander and Diego Pavia, they're going to have to control the ball and run the ball real well this game. Ced Alexander, he's a kid from Austin. He's going to get a chance to play against his hometown team in those Texas Longhorns. So, he's going to be having added fuel to the fire. You have Pavia leading the Commodores with 1,391 passing yards and 11 TDs. He's also rushed for 470 yards and 3 TDs. You got Ced Alexander with 380 yards rushing and 5 rushing TDs. Also has a receiving TD on the year. You got Eli Stowers, 463 yards with 2 touchdowns, leading the receiving corps, the tight end. Then you got Quinn Ewers for Texas. He's got 1,101 yards and 11 TDs. Quintravion Wiesner, 330 yards rushing and 2 TDs on the season. And Isaiah Bond, 380 yards and 4 TDs. Can Texas rebound from that bad loss to Georgia? They got beat up pretty bad in that one. Can Vandy make the playoffs? Playoffs? We want to talk about playoffs in Vandy? Boy, 2 things ain't never went together. We going to pay attention to that game. We got number 6 Miami, 7-0 versus Florida State, 1-6. Oh, that hurts my soul. That pains me. Just pains me. Florida State was just horrible, terrible. But, hey, we'll get into predictions later. Tennessee, number 7, they got a bye. Then you got number 8, LSU, 6-1, going down to Texas A&M to face the Aggies, 6-1. These are the last 2 undefeated teams in the SEC, guys. Everybody has a loss except LSU and Texas A&M. But after this one, somebody else is going to have a loss, and there will only be one. LSU, second in passing with 323 yards a game in the SEC. Then you got A&M second in rushing in the SEC. Both defenses are going to get a challenge in this one. We're going to see which defense is able to step up because both of them are challenged. A&M is weak against the pass and LSU is weak against the run. So who can exploit the other's weakness on defense best? This has a high over. The game is averaging 53.5 when it comes to the over. So expect a lot of points in this one. You got Garrett Nussmeier for LSU thrown for 2,222 yards and 18 touchdowns on the year. Caden Durham, 382 rushing yards and 6 TDs. Kyron Lacy catching that thing for 512 and 6 TDs, leading LSU. For A&M, you got Connor Weigman, 718 yards and 3 TDs. You got Le'Veon Moss, 674 yards rushing with 8 tutty boys on that season. Then you got Noah Thomas out there catching for 289 yards and 3 TDs. Will the home field of the Aggies come into play? Or is LSU really good? These are things we're going to find out when LSU travels to Texas A&M. You got number 9 Clemson on the bye. You got number 10 Iowa State on the bye. You have number 11 BYU, 7-0, traveling to UCF to play the Golden Knights, 3-4. BYU is a 1-point favorite in that one. Something's up. 7-0 team facing a 3-4 team and a 1-point favorite? Man, I called. Hey, pay attention. But you got Jake Retzlaff for BYU. The quarterback, 1644 passing and 16 TDs. He's also rushed for 265 yards and 2 TDs. You got Darius Lassiter, the hero from last week. Caught the game-winning touchdown. He's got 450 yards receiving with 4 TDs on the season. Moving on to number 12, Notre Dame. They're traveling to number 24, Navy. Notre Dame 6-1, Navy 6-0. Navy pounds that rock, baby. They're going to put it on the ground as they rush for 278 yards a game. Can Notre Dame force any turnovers against that efficient, effective, non-turning over, non-mistake playing football of Navy? That's going to be a big key in this one. This is a good matchup. We'll give you a prediction later in this game, in the show. Indiana is going to host Washington. Indiana 7-0. They're going to host Washington Huskies 4-3. You got Alabama 5-2 playing against Mizzou 6-1. Somebody's season is about to be cooked. After this one, somebody's season about to be cooked when it comes to the playoffs. Can Cook for Mizzou? Can he chef it up? Can he chef something up and beat Bama and have more trouble in Tuscaloosa? Oh, they're going to be calling for Kalen DeBoer head on a stick. Oh, my God. Can we get Mizzou to pull the upset? Bama is a 14-point favorite. All we were looking at in this one is can Cook. Then you got Cincinnati playing Colorado. They're both 5-2. Shedeur Sanders got 2,268 passing yards with 19 TDs versus Sorsby. Sorsby has 1,928 passing yards and 13 TDs. Both quarterbacks are capable of running the football in this one, as Sorsby has 96 rushing yards but 6 rushing touchdowns on the season. And Shedeur Sanders has 2 rushing touchdowns on the season. We're going to pay close attention to that game, Cincy at Colorado. Last game we're watching is SMU, number 22. They're 6-1, and they're going to face off at Duke, who's also 6-1. Pay attention to SMU quarterback in this one, Kevin Jennings. He's the all-do-it-all kind of person. He passed for 1,336 yards with 9 TDs, and he's also rushed for 280 and 2 scores. Also, pay attention to Brashard Smith, the running back for SMU. He's got 628 yards rushing and 7 TDs on the season. That is our top 10 and the best of the rest. Moving into our small school spotlight. Got to shine a light on some dang body. And this week, like always, we got 3 games in the FCS that we're going to pay attention to. First up is South Dakota, 6-1 at South Dakota State. You might remember South Dakota State. They were on this list last week. They had number 2 North Dakota State, but they lost 13-9 last week, while South Dakota beat Youngstown State 27-17. So this is going to be a good, interesting matchup. You got South Dakota coming in with Aiden Bauman, 1,393 yards passing and 7 TDs on the season. Running the ball for them is Charles Pierre Jr., 705 yards with 12 touchdowns. Count it. I said 12 touchdowns rushing on the season. Awesome young man. Then they got J.J. Galbraith out there catching for 323 yards and 2 touchdowns on the season for South Dakota. Then you got South Dakota State. The Jackrabbits are led by Mark Gronowski. Mark Gronowski has thrown for 1,223 yards with 11 touchdowns. Amar Johnson is leading the rushing attack with 521 and 5 TDs. Griffin Wild, 439 yards and 4 TDs, leads the wide receivers for the Jackrabbits. South Dakota versus South Dakota State, an in-state rivalry for the small school spotlight. Then we got Ivy League football. Dartmouth at Columbia. Dartmouth 5-0. Columbia 4-1. Dartmouth beat Central Connecticut State 20-16 last week, while Columbia beat Penn 23-17. Josh Proctor leads Dartmouth with 578 yards passing and 5 TDs. You got Q Jones. His name is just Q. Q Jones, 374 yards with 2 TDs, and Paxton Scott, 362 yards receiving and 2 TDs, lead Dartmouth. Columbia coming in with Chase Goodwin at quarterback from Houston, Texas, 800 yards passing, 6 TDs. You got Joey Giorgi, 455 yards rushing, with 1 TD. Then you got Bryson Canty receiving for 297 and 4 TDs to lead Columbia Lions. We're going to see who wins that Ivy League matchup. Last matchup in the small school spotlight is William and Mary at Stony Brook Seawolves. The William and Mary Tribe 5-2 against the Stony Brook Seawolves at 5-2 as well. The Tribe beat Campbell 35-28, while the Seawolves beat Towson State 52-24. William and Mary, the Tribe, is led by Darius Wilson at quarterback, 1,154 yards passing and 8 TDs on the season. You got Bronson Yoder, 738 yards rushing with 7 TDs on the season, and Hollis Mathis, 320 yards receiving, 3 TDs. Malachi Marshall leads the Stony Brook Seawolves with 814 passing yards, only 1 touchdown pass on the season. Roland Dempster, remember the name, Roland Dempster, 803 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. Count it, I said 12 touchdowns. That man, a touchdown scoring machine. RJ Lamare, 234 yards receiving, leads the Stony Brook Seawolves. Those are our small school spotlights where we shine a light on them little fellas. Time for y'all to shine, baby. Let's go. Moving into our final topic. It's the Pick 10. Haven't you been waiting for these? Don't you want these picks? Don't you wish your picks was hot like mine? Don't you wish your picks was hot like me? Don't ya? Oh, don't ya? Here we go. Top 10. The number 1, we're going to save that for the end because that was the game of the week. So we got Penn State at Wisconsin. I got Penn State 28, Wisconsin 24 in that one. Penn State going to be in for a close one, but that defense just prevailed. Ohio State versus Nebraska. I got Ohio State beating up on Nebraska just like Indiana did last week. Not quite to the tune that Indiana did. I got Ohio State 41, Nebraska 14. Texas going to play Vandy. I got Texas going to beat Vandy 34-27. Vandy not going to be able to pull off that second upset, but should be a good game. Miami versus FSU. Oh, it pains me to pick against my team, but Miami's just looking too strong and we just looking too wrong. So Miami 42. FSU 13. LSU at Texas A&M. I got LSU in a squeaker. Texas A&M is 2.5-point favorites. I got them to lose by 1 point to LSU. LSU 28, A&M 27. BYU, who's a 1-point favorite at UCF. I'm not thinking that's going to hold up. BYU 37, UCF 21. Notre Dame at that strong Navy team. Navy pulls the upset. The midshipmen get the win 24-21 over Notre Dame. Next, we got Indiana versus Washington. Indiana, a strong team. They never scored less than 40 points in a game this season. They're going to do it again. Indiana 42, Washington 28. Then we got Alabama at Mizzou. Bama, you cannot have trouble in Tuscaloosa. If you lose this one, man, somebody head going to roll. So I got Bama taking care of business. 28-21 over Mizzou. Alabama is 16.5-point favorites. Alabama ain't 2 touchdowns better than nobody right now. They're going to have to show me. So I'm taking Mizzou plus the points in this one, but Alabama for the straight up win, 28-21. Then our game of the week, which was Illinois at Oregon. Oregon, 22-point favorites in that one. I don't think they're going to be able to get away from that Illinois team. That defense plays tough, and they manage the ball well. They control time of possession. So I think they're going to try to shorten the game, keep that Oregon offense off the field, and keep that score down low. But Oregon always averages about 30 points. So Oregon, 31. Illinois, 23. Those are my pick 10, guys. I appreciate y'all tuning into another College Rundown Report with your host, Sands. I'm the man. I appreciate y'all. Y'all pay attention to them college kids. Go out there and support them. Get your bets right. If you win, thank me. If you don't, come back. I'll give you another one next week. All love. See y'all at the top.